Hello and welcome to the interview. Momentum appears to be gathering against Boko Haram. Niger and Chad have launched a ground and air offensive against the Islamists in border areas of northern Nigeria. This comes after Boko Haram pledged formal allegiance to the Islamic State group. My guest today is no stranger to the conflict in northern Nigeria. Ignatius Kaigama is the Archbishop of Jos, a city that's frequently rocked by deadly violence. Terrorist attacks there have strained relations between the religious communities in Jos, the capital of Plateau State. Archbishop Kaigama is the chairman of the Plateau State-convened Inter-Religious Committee for Peace, and he's currently president of the Nigerian Archbishops Conference. Very good to have you on the program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about this new offensive against Boko Haram. You've long said that the world has not shown enough resolve against this group. Do you think there is now a change, a different attitude in the international community?
I believe so. I am not in the intelligence service or the military, but I know that some progress has been made because some cities and villages that were captured by Boko Haram have now been recaptured. That is progress.
Would you like to see more of the kind of international coalitions that's taken shape around the Islamic State group, for example? Because at the moment it's only two main countries on your borders that are taking part in this.
Yeah, we would like to see more commitment. First of all, from the Nigerian authorities, the government. They should show more seriousness in bringing an end to this menace. And then we would also appreciate the kind of collaboration and support from the international community. Yes, you see how cooperation has worked. Chad, Cameroon, Niger, and others. You know, then I understand that European countries like France and others are also helping. I don't know in what way, but certainly some help is being rendered and success is being recorded.
So tell us more about your criticism of the Nigerian government in respect of this.
We just want to see an end to the activities of Boko Haram. It has been a terrible threat to the Nigerians, especially in the northeastern part of Nigeria, where people have been killed and then people have been displaced. I'm a church person, I'm a religious leader, and that churches have all been destroyed and people are forced to run, priests are on the run. It's not a healthy development. So we want to see sanity return. We want to see the situation of normalcy.
Is there anything left of Christian life in those areas controlled by Boko Haram, according to your information?
Very little is happening because when people are not safe, they don't feel safe. They have to run, or even if they remain, they are not free to have religious programs and so on. The vast majority has run away.
So a lot of those refugees, estimated 200,000 refugees, a lot of them are Christians, I imagine.
Certainly so. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Let's talk a bit about your city, Jos. I mentioned, or I alluded to, those bombings in late February that killed 15 people. But of course, this is tragically frequent. What impact is that having on the mood and the atmosphere and the relations between the communities in Jos?
It creates fear and heightens tension unnecessarily. And it brings about distrust and suspicion. You know, normally the Muslims and Christian communities would associate very well, mingle very well, celebrate together, and engage in what I call dialogue of life. But all these bombings and violence has introduced a certain polarization. Namely, you find Christians on this side, Muslims on that side.
Living in different clusters.
Exactly. And then it's difficult to build trust.
So Boko Haram is succeeding in dividing Christians and Muslims in Jos?
I would say, yeah, indirectly doing so, because this has heightened suspicion and tension, and people are forced to conclude that the activities of Boko Haram, which are said to be an Islamic attempt to convert Nigeria, kind of shared. But Boko Haram is a distinct group. It's not Islam as a whole, you know, and Muslims will tell you they are a deviation of.
How are you dealing with this? I mean, what is this interfaith dialogue that you're carrying out? Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, we try to distinguish, for instance, between the moderate, normal Muslims who would like us to live in peace, and we should relate with them, and not those small group, the small group that wants to create anarchy. And
so what are you doing in Jos? I mean, what concretely does that consist
we
of,
reach
that dialogue?
out. We are reaching out. For instance, in my archdiocese, I have developed or initiated 2 institutions. One, the Vocational Training Center for young Muslim boys and young Christian boys. They train together for 2 years in carpentry or some vocational skills. The idea is to get them relating, to get them understanding themselves, and get into the culture of dialogue and peacemaking, so that when they return home, they are agents of peace. Then I have the Dialogue, Reconciliation and Peace Center established in the city of Jos. The idea is to use that center as a proactive measure to prevent crisis, not to wait until crisis has started and people are being killed, then we start calling or running helter-skelter to find solutions. No, that before anything happens, the elders, the youth, the women, the politicians, the chiefs and so on, we meet regularly in order to map out strategies of avoiding crises, especially during elections or any big events like that.
I see. So all about the two sides the 2 communities getting to know each other better. I want to move on to some other issues because unfortunately we don't have a lot of time with you. But you caused a bit of controversy by your stance on a law that was signed by President Jonathan last year, which bans same-sex marriage and also criminalizes homosexual clubs, associations and organizations with penalties of up to 14 years in jail. You initially congratulated President Jonathan on this law, but later, after a visit to the Vatican, you backtracked and you said, actually, you don't support the jailing of gay people. So people are a bit confused as to where you really stand on this.
We still stand on what we say, that same-sex marriage is not according to our culture, neither does our religious value share that. And when we wrote to commend the president, Goodluck Jonathan, it was just to say that this is what we stand for, that marriage is between a man and a woman, and therefore it should be so. We didn't write to support the criminalization of those who are involved, or 14 years in jail. That is not certainly what we were trying to articulate.
But your letter to President Jonathan, it talks about unethical and immoral practices of same-sex union and other related vices. So I'm quoting from the letter there.
Yes.
So you weren't only talking about the same-sex law, you were talking about other vices, so the other aspects of the law as well.
Well, it wasn't the law per se. It was just the practice that we feel is totally out of tune with our cultural and religious values. That was all we were concerned with.
Because I'm putting this to you again because a Nigerian LGBT activist who wrote in PM News said that nothing that your church has not shown any evidence of challenging the persecution of gay people in Nigeria.
Where are they? Let them come and tell us they are gay and they have been persecuted. Where are they?
Well, presumably they're a bit too scared now after this law has passed.
I don't believe, because even before the law was passed, I am a bishop for a long time and a priest for over 34 years. I have not met any group or persons who say we are gay and we need help or we have been persecuted. We haven't. So let us see them, and we know the pastoral help to give.
Well, there are certainly some living in other countries such as London now, but so I just want to be clear. So you are against, for example, jailing somebody for 10 years because they're holding hands with a partner of the same sex.
Every Christmas I go to the prison to visit prisoners, and I feel angry that some are jailed for just minor offenses. I do everything to get them out.
Right.
Why would I be jailing other people? For God's sake.
Right.
We are against an attitude. We are against something that violates our cultural norm and we're not against the person. We are able to help the person out of any predicament.
Talking about cultural norms and cultural values, you talked a lot about this at the last Vatican Synod, and you criticized Western attitudes to Africa, saying, for example, that African nations are being asked to reduce their populations in exchange for money. I want to put it to you that contraception is a public health issue. It's not about African values or Western values. It's about stopping the spread of HIV/AIDS in Nigeria.
There are other ways to stop HIV/AIDS, but I can tell you that there is a deliberate and calculated attempt to get Africans to limit their population. And we get all these contraceptive devices and pills that are not properly used, and is a serious health issue for Nigerians and Africans.
Would you be in favor of them being used strictly in relation to HIV/AIDS? I'm not talking about birth control, but purely on HIV/AIDS.
It depends on what they are, because I am not an expert, but I know I advise my people that abstinence is about the best.
Abstinence.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much, because we've run out of time. Archbishop Kaigama, thank you so much for being on.
I am happy to be here, and I thank the Church in Need of France that invited me to France, and I'm having this wonderful interview with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you. Thanks for watching
That's
France 24.
welcome.